I hit the ground running, both feet in. I like to try to crawl, walk, run, but it was a lot of running, a couple trips, but mostly, walking. Not enough time to crawl, but here we are.
Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hossman, and joining me today is a repeat rock star. She's the host of the Branding Banter podcast. She's a Promo Cares board member. She's now the director of sales for Proforma, Meg Erber. Thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, Kirby, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Always good when I get a chance to talk to you.
Oh, good. It's been a minute. I feel like we used to talk like every week or every other week in our little groups, and we all got busy, I think. But yeah, I miss talking to you.
Yeah, right back at you. Well, I want to dig in because we haven't talked in a while, and you're in kind of a fairly new role. You've taken on a new role at Proforma. So first of all, congratulations on the move. I know that was a big deal.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that role and how that kind of came to be?
Sure. I mean, it's definitely a lot different than what I was doing in my former life. So how it came to be, I mean, you and I, we've talked candidly off camera, on camera, the whole 9 yards. We've been friends for a long time. I think I had really just outgrown my role at SNS. I loved my job there. I loved the people there. I mean, the best thing about SNS are the people. But there wasn't any room for me to grow, unfortunately. And I just felt this overwhelming need to just have a bigger ripple effect within our industry, because I just love putting our better foot forward for the industry, and I love helping and coaching and just being part of like every fiber of this industry. And it was really limited in my role at SNS. So when I decided to start putting my feelers out there, I was really looking to somewhere where I could not only grow with the company, but be at a company that would support and value me for what I do for the industry. And that was a huge metric of me deciding where I wanted to go. So I decided to go to Proforma, and funny enough, when I started putting some feelers out there, Vera had reached out to me first, had interviewed me. We talked for about 2 hours one night, and then about a week later, Greg had called me and interviewed me. They both were trying to recruit me, and neither of them had actually talked to each other at that point. So I felt really good that they both wanted me for their team. But I am now their new director of sales. That wasn't a position that they had held. It's a newly created position there. And it is what what a director of sales does. I handle business development, our coaches. We have about 550 franchise owners.
Wow.
And I'm responsible for the betterment and their overall wealth and how good they do on a daily basis. So I'm here for it. We have a team of success coaches that are just unbelievable. I am so proud to have a team like the team that I have here, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But man, I have learned so much since I've been here. And I know I'm getting completely off topic, but I was actually talking to my old boss at SNS last week, and he's like, "Oh, I drove by Moosehead and I thought of you." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love that." Because I bought a house up on Moosehead Lake. He was like, "Oh, how's it going? How's it going?" And I was like, "Great." I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're so smart here." He's like, or I said, "I'm learning so much." And he goes, "You mean so much more. You were already so nice to you." And I was like, No. It's a whole other level here. I am definitely surrounding myself with the smartest people in the room for sure. So very happy to be Proforma.
That's cool. So it actually leads nicely to my next question, because, you were on the supplier side for quite a bit of time. And I'm always curious about that transition, because you see people from the distributor side go to supplier side, supplier to go to the distributor. So how are things different for you on the distributor side now?
Man, well, I've been on the distributor side before too. I've actually been on all sides of this industry, from running production to being a web distributor to supplier and podcasting. But I really think it's about a difference of perspective. I was at the time, we were number 2 on the supplier side, and now I'm number 3 on the distributor side. So on a high level, you have that perspective, but the roles have changed. So where I've had to learn as much as possible, as quickly as possible. that transition is very difficult when you aren't in a leadership position and you need to learn everything about a new company in general, and then learn who your team is, the quirks, the ins and outs of it's a big transition when you move. I think not just from distributor to supplier and vice versa, but roles, like the expectations, the challenges, the opportunities, the skills transfers. There's so much involved. And I've been here less than 3 months, but I hit the ground running, both feet in. I like to try to crawl, walk, run, but it was a lot of running, a couple trips, but mostly walking. Not enough time to crawl, but here we are.
Yeah, I think you have a good point there. I hadn't thought about it. I think sometimes we think about just the different sides of the business, but the different roles. I mean, obviously, that's a great point. I appreciate that. That's a good one. The other thing I know about you, just because, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. If I can add something to it. So in previous roles, I did share some similarities. I was a VP of sales. I was, president of my own company at one point. So I think, and I've said this before, you win some and you learn some. And I've done a lot of learning over the last 20 years. And I think everything that I've learned in the last 20 years really came to this moment where I'm at this company and being able to use all these different tools. It wasn't just from SNS. It wasn't just from Gimmies or Pop or British Promo or Jetline. I know a lot of it came from the Jetline days, but I think it's just all encompassing. Having a little piece from each job within this industry has really led me to be the best version of myself for Proforma. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, not at all. That's great. That's a great addition. So the other thing I know about you, Meg, is, again, that you talked about us talking on a regular basis during content. We were part of a mastermind there. So I know you work to create a personal brand. So you're in like this different role where you're giving advice. So what advice do you give someone that wants to grow their own personal brand?
I think the number one thing is authenticity. You have to be able to differentiate yourself. And I took that from everybody else. And I talk to my daughter about this all the time because she's 8 years old and you hear so many things and you're trying to figure out who you are. But when it boils down to it, being weird is okay. Being different is okay. Being like everybody else is not going to help you grow as a person. And I'm going to take a book out of Jay Boussel's, I'm going to take a page out of Jay Boussel's book. When you're at the grocery store and you're in aisle 12, you're in that cereal aisle, right? What do you see when you look down that aisle? It's a bunch of boxes of cereal and they all look alike. They have like one of three things on them, either a cartoon character, maybe a bowl of cereal or a spoon with a piece of cereal on it. So nothing is really differentiating yourself from all those boxes of cereal if you're a box of cereal. So you really have to kind of step out of that box and find what makes you different and then capitalize on that, grow from it. I think where I did so well is when I came into this industry and I was really finding out who I was very big into jiu-jitsu and MMA and then crypto, and nobody else was doing it. So people kind of flocked towards that because it was so different and it was so new and it wasn't what everyone else was doing. So I think being authentic is the number one thing that everyone should kind of just think about when you're talking about growing your relationships or sales tactics. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing to do something great. So authenticity, being consistent. I know you and I have talked about this. It's one thing I don't do well, and it's just from time management perspective, but being consistent is really key. And then the value of your content that you're bringing to the table. I think pushing product, pushing price is not the best way to kind of develop your brand, but if you can kind of have an all-encompassing outlook and talk about the value of the content you're driving, that's really how you can build your brand. And then networking, obviously, and engaging and all that good stuff. So
that's good. Yeah, those are really good, Meg. I love that. All right. Well, cool. That's really good. Final question for you. You're doing great. Yeah, that's what we try to. This is like the length of my commute. No. So what's something you recommend people start doing today to make their life, whether that's their personal or their business life?
I say this the same time someone asks me, and it's something I learned from Joanne Lance, and it's invest in yourself. Invest in yourself, invest in yourself, invest in yourself. Whether it's going to NALC, Power Summit, WLC, leadership conferences, there's so many people in this industry who have done it the hard way and learned and trial by error and figured it out, and we're trying to teach everybody else. But if you have a minute to grab someone's ear or take an education class and it's free, or it's something that you're interested in, do it. 100% continuous learning. Number one, setting goals. I think knowing where you want to be in 6 months, a year, even like short-term goals, 30, 60, 90, just to make sure you can kind of measure where you are and how far you've come, so you're not just in the weeds all the day. Maybe it's death by meetings and you don't think you're getting anywhere, but then when you hit that 30-day mark, did you hit that goal? I think it's a really good measurement. How about 60, about 90? You have your goals, you have your continuous learning, work-life balance. I didn't think I had that before, and I'm trying to do a much better job of it now. And I think it's so important because at the end of the day, all you have your family, and that's why you work. You work to feed your family. Find your why. My why is my family. Spending more time with them. We have 7 kids. I had to count them for a second. We have 7 kids, and 6 of them are between 20 and 29. That time is gone already. And I don't think I even realized it when I was in it, but I was taking my middle child, I was driving her to college, and I was ugly crying the whole way. And I wasn't sad that she was leaving, and I wasn't sad for her. I was so proud of her, beyond proud. But I coached her entire life, so it was like the era of our life was over, and I was sad for me that I look back and I don't have any pictures of my kids playing sports. I don't have any pictures of, I was coaching them. It's great, but my time was split between her and 30 other girls. So, and then when I wasn't doing that, I was working. So I think having a really good work-life balance, so you can decompress from that day, check it at the door. When you're with your family, that phone's off, that calendar's off, those emails, you really spend that time with your family, because it makes you so grateful when you have a crazy day at work, when you can just check it, close the computer, close your office door, and then spend time with that family. I think that's really, really important. And last but not least, I know I wanted to say this earlier, change. I talk about this all the time too. You have to be able to embrace it. I think this industry, I think this world is constantly evolving. You have to adapt. Otherwise, you'll be left in the dark. During COVID, we had to adapt. Pivot, I guess, was the key word. Then after that, you had supply chain issues, logistics, labor issues. You have to adapt. If you didn't adapt during these big changes to our industry, to this world, you're essentially dying, being left behind. So I think you have to embrace the change. It's coming. It's up to us to embrace it and evolve and adapt, make it part of, your day to day. Hopefully I wasn't too much.
No, that's really good, Meg. I love it. And really the first thing you said, it's funny. I've been paying attention to people who that I admire. And one of the things that I think is a consistent trait is the first thing you said is they continually, no matter how successful they are, they continually are students first. They are always trying to improve and get better. And I think that's great advice. So I appreciate you taking the time and sharing the knowledge, and congrats on the new role. Big deal. Congratulations to you. And we'll have to do this again. Okay.
Sounds good. Love to. And I know it was before I used to ask you a question, and I don't think I came prepared with one, but what's new with Kirby? What's going on with Kirby? You always have something going on, right around the corner. So what's new with Kirby?
Okay. We, lots of new stuff. I mean, I think the one that you probably do know about is my wife and I bought a motel about a year or so ago. Actually, it hasn't been a year yet. And so AIM's been working really hard on that, and we're starting to, it was a 15-room hotel. Now we've turned it into 18. And that's 13 of the 18 rooms are renovated and looking good. And so that's going well. And there's some other stuff that's getting ready to be rolled out too. So always, like you said, I always got something up my sleeve.
Kirby, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.